Hey gang, this is our first attempt at a flipped classroom. What a flipped classroom is you're going to watch this video, answer a few questions during the video, and then tomorrow when we get into class, we're going to practice what we talked about in this video with your teachers there to help you out. Our first topic is adding integers, and today we talked about integers and absolute value and additive inverse and opposites. And so now we're going to take those same type of numbers, positive, negative, whole numbers, and add them together. When we're adding integers, it's always good to have a frame of reference to refer to when you start adding, so that if you get a little bit confused, you have some way to make sense. So what is that frame of reference? Well, my frame of reference is often elevation. So I always think about like a mountain and the water being the zero, or sea level being zero. So anything below water is negative, anything above the water is positive. The other great visual tool, and a tool you'll be able to use a lot, is a number line. In a number line, the arrows represent the numbers. The arrows have two pieces to them: the size of the arrows and the direction. So a positive number will be going to the right, and I have an arrow, so arrow points to the right, shows me it's positive. This one is positive 4 because that arrow is 4 units long. A negative number, let's change that, goes to the left, so that arrow points to the left, so that's negative, and that one is negative 5 because it is 5 units long. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is add together integers that have the same sign. So I'm going to use the number line to do these, see how that makes sense. Now you see that if you look at the two problems that I'm going to do, they're both all negatives because you've been adding integers with the same signs probably since kindergarten, first grade. They're just two positive signs. So if I add two negatives together, let's think about what would that represent. And if I think about going underwater, in this case, if I go down 2 feet, and then at the end of that, I do another 3 feet down, now I'm going further down. What does that look like on a number line? I go -2, so the arrow is to the left and 2 units long. When I'm adding, I'm going to put start the next arrow at the end of that in a -3. So there's a -2 and a -3, and where it ends up is my answer. So that one ends up at -5. Again, does that make sense? If I go down 2 feet and then I go down another 3 feet, now I'm 5 feet below the surface. So -2 plus -3 is equal to -5. On our second, we have -1 and -2. So I'll start again. 1 to the left, that's a -1. Now I'm going 2 more units, 1, 2. Again to the left, that's a -3 now. So -1 plus -2 is equal to -3. Well, here's a couple things we can notice from these two types. If I'm going to add integers with the same sign, I am going to add the absolute value of the numbers, okay? And I am going to keep the sign. So a negative plus a negative is going to give you a negative. Why is that? Because I'm heading in the same direction on the number line. Both are keep on moving us towards the left. So for example, -5 plus -3, 5 plus 3 is 8, and since they're negative, I'll keep the answer negative. -12 plus -9, 12 plus 9, the absolute value of -12 is 12, and the absolute value of -9 is 9. 12 plus 9 is 21, and we'll keep the sign. And 10 plus 16, you've been doing this. It follows the same rules, but don't make it too hard. That's integers with the same signs. We can also add integers with different signs. Okay, so this is a little bit different because now we're going to have arrows heading in each direction. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start with an arrow, a +2. Start at 0, go +2. Now the next arrow is -3. So this arrow is going to be going to the left, and it's going to be 3 units long. So I start at +2 because that's where the first arrow ended up. Move 3 units. 1, 2, 3. Where does that put me? At -1. So 2 plus -3 is -1. Now, if you're like, I don't understand, how does that happen? If I think back on my cliff, right? If I'm 2 feet ahead and I drop 3 feet, well, I go past the water. Now I'm 1 foot underneath the water. All right? Here goes our next example is -5. So let me draw that arrow. -5 all the way there, plus a +1. So start at the end of the -5. I'm going to go to the right 1 unit, and that becomes -4. If I think that again, if I'm 5 feet below the surface and I go up 1 foot, now I'm only 4 feet below the surface. So what happened there? Before, when it was the same sign, what we did was we took the absolute values, we added them together and kept the sign. With different signs, it's a little bit different. Okay? In this case, we are going to subtract the absolute values of the numbers. Okay? Because we're going in 2 different directions, we want to find the difference between those 2 arrows. Okay? And then we're going to keep the sign of the number with the largest absolute value. So how does it work? If I look at -4 plus 9, well, the absolute value of -4 is 4. The absolute value of 9 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. Now, if I'm 9 feet above and I go down 4, I'm still 5 feet above the water. So we keep the sign of the larger absolute value, which is +9 in this case. Next one, 9 plus -15. All right, so take the absolute value of 9 is 9. Absolute value of -15 is 15. 15 minus 9 is 6. But now the number with the absolute larger absolute value is -15. So this becomes a -6. All right. Okay, so that finishes it up nice and quick. Please make sure you answered all the questions. If you're not sure what's going on, don't worry about it. We're going to practice this and go over it in class tomorrow. All right, have a great night.